wanders up.
It's not the right key.
Things certainly not coming up quick. It's grinding away. Maybe you got an update or something. Okay, here it is. Now, kitchen Wi-Fi offline. You're telling me this? That was 7 days ago.
Just do what they want to do.
Things certainly not. There we go. It's up. Okay. Not very lively. It's such a lot going on here for some reason. We use the Chrome PWA, whatever that is.
The PWA is Progressive Web App. Steve is supposedly here.
He's in his dark room today.
There he is.
Oh, that's dark.
Steve must be at work.
I am. Yeah, my boss is on the other side of the counter here, so yeah. Let's see what happens.
Well, anything new, Mr. Steve?
No. I got a new computer. That's pretty sweet. And I set it up with Mint and I encrypted the drive and I've already forgotten what the password was. So par for the course.
Well, you know. This morning I checked on that cure, that washer and cure thing.
Yeah.
They dropped the price from $29 to $20.
Hey.
And
food.
Somebody immediately bought it.
Oh.
So I was like, they've got I found the one that was actually designed for the printer I've got. That was $50. I actually found it. They don't call it a UV cure thing. They call it something else. And that's why I couldn't find it before.
Really? What do they call it?
I forget what it's called. But when I typed in reality or whatever, it showed up and I was like, yeah, that's the one. That was the one for $50. But I haven't bought it yet. Because I don't want to spend $50. I'm waiting for somebody to return one and they stick 29 bucks on it.
A number of years ago, I went into the Sears store that's it's no longer there. Most of them are no longer there. And they had an 18-inch brand name crescent wrench for $5. And I said, oh man.
Wow.
So I grabbed that and run home and I called my nephew and I said, I got this 18-inch crescent wrench. He says, get me one. I go back up there. All of them were gone.
Yeah.
There must have been 10 of them that had been in there before. If not a single one.
Yeah. Usually, when I see deals like that, I'll grab 2 or 3, even if I don't need them, because I know somebody's going to want them.
Well, I should have done that.
Yeah. Probably at the time, you probably could not pass a crescent wrench up for $5 like that. Even if you had no use for it.
There have been things like that. I don't have any use for it. I don't know who has use for it, but I'm not leaving the store without it.
That's $5.
Yeah.
Yep. Last week we were looking at cures for the UV cures for the 3D printer that I've got. And found one for 29 bucks, and I waited and they dropped the price to 20 bucks. And then today when I went to check, somebody had bought it. And I was like, oh.
And Julie bought me a little pen that has UV cured resin, and so you put it out like glue and you flip it around and it's got a little UV light. And when it came, it had been damaged in shipment. All the resin was all over it. I thought it'd be kind of nice, but the resin was so friggin' expensive. I'm hoping at some point that they'll offer it again.
Bottle of resin. I think it's 16 ounces. Maybe. It's $25 for that. So it's not horrible, but it's not cheap.
This is a little vial about size. And I didn't see that it was worth $25.
Oh yeah, a little tiny not be worth 25 bucks.
There's the woods. I have a learning how to adjust my cameras. They suffer from, I'm thinking they're suffering from heat frustration. And I'm reducing the image quality and reducing the bit rate. And I think I may have discovered something.
And that is?
That, yeah, you can, the problem cameras, you can reduce the resolution, reduce the bit rate, and it'll make them much more stable. We'll see if that is still in the testing phase, but it was 85 today, and that should have made them irritated if they were going to be irritating. I guess I run cooler, and reducing the bit rate, you know, should make them more stable. Particularly when I go through my access point. Oh, there's Art. Hey, Art.
I have a shirt like that too.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. I can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Now, how many people ask you about the shirt and don't understand even after you explain it?
Essentially none in my family, but I don't go out in crowds a lot, so I don't know what the general public would be like. But in my family, I think they all get it. They generally speaking, they've been the genesis of the shirt. T-shirts and hats are the default, the classic Christmas tie you give Uncle Joe because you can't think of anything else. So,
and for me, they see me wearing a t-shirt like that and they don't inquire as to what it means generally because they say, well, it's Uncle Mike.
yeah. Yeah, I suppose there's some of that too. I used to have a pretty good one, was the series of oh gee, what I'm thinking of, electromagnetic equations. It says, I'm sorry, what?
Maxwell's
equations, yes, which he stole from somebody else, by the way. But in any case, I used to have one that said, and God said, blah, 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 and there was light. So that one, I would guess there was probably not 1 in 100 who understood. So,
well, I like the story, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but Richard Feynman came up, he was a Nobel Prize winning theoretical physicist who worked on the Manhattan Project. And many people know him from also working on the Challenger Disaster Committee.
yeah, I know Richard.
Okay, he came up with diagrams that helped explain interaction between quantum particles. They were called Feynman diagrams.
Yep.
And he was in a park one day, and somebody came up and said, "How come you have Feynman diagrams all over your van?" And he said, "Because I'm Richard Feynman."
Yeah. Unfortunately, he and a lot of other people ended up with the cancer that came with being in the Manhattan Project and died way prematurely. There were a whole group of physicists and other participants in that project that, yeah.
You want a cupcake?
Okay, you're just in time.
A cupcake. Who's the cook?
Well, Mike always brings cupcakes. You want a cupcake? You want another one for her?
Art, you want one? I'll put one back in the cupboard for you.
No, thanks. Sorry. It's would be another 10 cc's of insulin for me to take one of those.
10 cc's, you'd be dead if you took 10 cc's of insulin.
Those look pretty like they've got a lot of sugar in them.
I visited my diabetic team yesterday, and they started going down the readings from my meter, and they said, "What are all these low values?" And they started circling, and I said, "Well, those aren't low values. Those are between 120 and 130. And they said, well, given your age, we want your values between 130 and 150. It's like, wow, I've been working all this time to get them down this low. And now you're telling me I don't have to.
That's amazing. I haven't had that conversation. I generally stay well under 100.
Really?
I'm sorry?
Damn. I wish I could.
Yeah, well, it's a matter of metering your insulin versus your glucose. So you can set it to pretty much any value that is livable if you have the right ratio. A colleague of mine at San Jose City College pointed out that he's not only on insulin, he's on a pump, and he's got a CGM. And I was talking to him about it because I was trying to get a CGM, and at the time Kaiser would not pay for a CGM for me. I didn't want a pump particularly, but a CGM would have been good so I could keep track of what was going on. And I said, well, you think of it this way. I said, this pump CGM combination is essentially my pancreas. My pancreas, at least from an insulin point of view, is non-functional. And without this, frankly, I'd be dead. So, you know, and my ex-father-in-law, now deceased, had a situation where he was doing what I'm doing, which is monitoring my glucose and taking insulin. And for some reason or another, he was a pretty smart guy, but he screwed this up. He could put his insulin in the back of his car. It got too hot and effectively became ineffective. And apparently he wasn't monitoring it very closely and ended up blind. But in order for that to happen, I think your glucose has to get up in the 400 or 500 levels, something like that.
Get up there and stay up there.
Well, one thing they do with me, and I assume they do with you, Mike, is periodically they take a retinal scan. And apparently an ophthalmologist or an optometrist or whoever doing the scan can see damage on the retina where the glucose has been too high. But you're saying it has to get up there and it has to stay there for a period of time. It's not you eat a cupcake and it goes up there and then it comes back down again.
The short-term excursions don't seem to be the problem. As most people are aware, I was drafted. Richard Nixon invited me to go camping in the early 70s.
No, that was nice of him.
In the early 70s?
Early
okay.
70s. In January 31st, 1971, I was drafted with that 1 hour left on my BS in math and physics. And they thought it would be a good thing for me to become a mortar crewman in the infantry.
Oh, yeah. Gee, I think somebody should definitely have a degree in physics for that.
Connect those dots, yeah.
Yeah. Well, they never really utilized any of my training. But my wife enlisted in the Navy when she was 18. They put her on a tugboat hauling nuclear subs in and out of Groton, Connecticut. She was the deck winch operator.
Okay.
Both Julie and I have care through the VA. And we have found that it's quite good. Horror stories that I grew up with, notwithstanding. They have a team of about 4 or 5 people, doctor and nurse practitioners, who do nothing but diabetic care at the VA. And I see them about once every 6 months, and they are fully occupied the rest of the time. So I don't know how many patients that they see. And when she told me that my numbers were low at the 110 and 120, I could have just fallen out of my chair. I'm still going back on the, get down below 100. And I've never been successful doing that. If I do get down in that range during the day, we've tracked my blood glucose, and it starts climbing at around 11 o'clock at night. Not triggered by food or anything else that we can tell. It's just my natural cycle, and peaks about 10 o'clock in the morning. It's long acting and short acting on a sliding scale. And I've really worked at it. I've got my A1C down to 7. And I was expecting to have a compliment. Gosh, your A1C is looking great. Whatever you do, and keep it up. They said, no, you're too low.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
My last A1C was 6.3, and my doctor said, well, you ought to get it down a little lower. So obviously there are differences of opinion. I remember the first time I found out I was diabetic was in I think when I was 59, I'll put it that way, which is a while ago. And I'd been having some strange symptoms, like whenever I drank more than a couple of beers, I would get fuzzy. And so I went in for my annual physical and so forth and so on. And my doctor, who I'd been with at that point for some 30 years, I remember him coming into the examination room and said, yeah, your sugar is the shits. I assume we've already been anointed this particular session. So
now, was that a technical term, or?
Yeah, I guess that was a Kaiser certified technical term. And he said, we can put you on exercise and diet and so forth and so on, but he said, we're not going to get you down without some medication. So they started out with, I don't know, metformin and glipizide and so forth and so on. But glipizide, here's the function of glipizide, as it turns out. It basically says, bang, 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 pancreas, you're getting lazy, put out more insulin. And at some point, the pancreas says, there isn't many more to be had. And at that point, they said, all right, you got to go on injected insulin. And I have to say, with those really thin needles and so forth and so on, the injections are, if not 100% painless, they're pretty close to it. I rarely feel, occasionally on rare occasions, I get unlucky and somehow or another hit a nerve. and then it wakes me right up. But most of the time, it's easy. The thing that annoys me is this business of poking my finger, 4 or 5 times a day to get a reading. So that's the advantage of the CGM. I don't know, Mike, are you on a CGM?
Just Wednesday, they decided that my fingers had been filled with enough tiny holes that I no longer had to do that, and they ordered one for me. And I downloaded the app, and it said, according to all the literature, that my Android 8.1.0 phone would be able to work with that. And when I downloaded the app, they said, no. So now I'm faced with either an alternate way of reading the continuous monitor or buying a new phone. And they're not upfront with what phones are compatible with the Libby or Libra 2. So you can look in there, and according to the literature that they have, the phone I have would work. So if I go out and buy another one, who knows whether it's going to work?
Yeah.
I had about 2 years ago, when we talked about my numbers rising beginning in the evening, I had a continuous monitor that I wore for a couple of weeks. And it wasn't uncomfortable. It didn't really bother me. It was one of those things where, like a sore thumb, it's always in the way and always getting bumped. So I'll have to figure out someplace, if I decide to continue on and use that, where it's going to go. A friend of mine, he goes, oh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and he only takes a sample once a day. And I'm thinking, morning, noon, afternoon.
That's
evening.
what our communication looks like.
My fingers are occupied every day.
Yeah. Well, aren't there any dedicated devices you can use for reading a CGM? Not a cell phone, but a dedicated device?
According to, I believe it's Abbott is the manufacturer. They say there is a reader, but it wasn't discussed with the VA diabetic team. They just presumed that I would have a phone that would read it. And none of the literature that I have, they're like a 32-page 5th grade reader instruction manual. It doesn't mention it. And anything I looked at online was totally worthless. There were no detailed specifications about whether I needed a reader or what would be available. I was rather disappointed with the availability of it. There were some 30 third-party sites, but I was reluctant to trust the information that he had on there as opposed to the manufacturer. The technician that I spoke to regarding this with Abbott said they have a dedicated reader, but I don't know what it does or how it communicates or anything like that. The handheld strip reader that I use now, Bluetooth communicates with my phone. And then there's an app on the phone where I can ship that to an Excel spreadsheet and export it to my email. And I can pull it up on the computer and look at the spreadsheet, do my modification, and then attach that and send it to the diabetic care team. It seems kind of convoluted, but it really is a simple stream. There's no difficult stuff in there. I don't want to sit down and manually enter this information with the time and the date and the reading and all that. I had done that in the past, and I'm not very into causing myself that much pain.
My girlfriend's on one of those. She's using the Freestyle Libre 2 GCMs, and she's real happy with it. She's using an older Apple phone, iOS 11 or 12, I don't know. It's an annoying phone to me, and she doesn't have any issues, but I know that they have a dedicated reader, but it's about $300. You can pick up a pretty reasonable phone for $300.
And have the benefit of the phone.
Yeah.
Well, if you're on Android 8,
Yeah.
that's really old.
Yeah.
This phone is Android 8.1.0. And there are no updates available.
Right.
It's an LG
So
K30.
you're probably going to want to get a new phone anyway.
Yeah. When's the last time you got an update?
Well, we were on the Santa Fe Trail, and I wasn't getting signal with the wagon train.
Exactly.
How's the hand crank on that phone working anyway?
There's been a lot of security updates and privacy updates and all kinds of updates that
Leroy,
are kind of important.
you know me, the phone goes green, green. I think
I
that's,
know.
yeah, I say,
That's dad. My dad was the same way. It's a phone. Why do I need it to text? Why do I need all this stuff? I just want to talk.
They got a bunch of refurbs. Oh, gee. Motorola refurbs. $100.
It
Good
You
phone.
can get a brand new Motorola for $200.
yeah.
You can get them for $150. Kenny got one for $150. Okay.
I got this one for $250, and it's a heck of a phone. That was marked down from $500.
What model is that, Leroy?
It's the Stylus 2022 Stylus 5G. And I bought it a year out of date because it was cheap and it's a heck of a phone. It's better than the new Stylus apparently. But it looks to me, I got their little thing, and it looks to me like if you've got 8.1, 9, it should work, but they're saying it may not. There's a little star down here that says it might work, but probably not. So
it's still in the we're getting the information phase. I know people and understand people who are surgically attached to their cell phones, and
that would be my wife.
and can't do anything without them. And it's like, yeah, it's the telephone.
Will yours do 5G?
No.
Because a number of my apps started hammer on me, I guess about 2 years ago, about the middle of COVID-19, and saying, as of such and such a date, we aren't going to work with 3G anymore. So roughly a year ago, I guess about 10 months ago, Barbara and I had to go out and upgrade to phones that had at least 4G on it. And it turns out in the process, we got 5G as well. So we were essentially forced to upgrade our phones. And I actually haven't been sorry, and neither's Barbara. She's perfectly happy with the new phone. And we got the identical phones this time. The only difference is she put a clear, whatever the protective
Case.
Pardon?
Case.
Case on it, and I have a black case on it, so we don't get confused as to who's who and so forth and so on. But it's,
Yeah.
I'm very happy with it.
Me and Patty, because the same reason, it was a heck of a phone, and price wise it was a good deal. So she got the same phone. She has a red case on hers. I have a black case on mine. The phone itself is green, and the green one was the only one on sale. My guess is nobody wanted the green one. And I said, I don't care because it's going to have a case. So who cares?
Well,
Yeah.
and who's going to look inside my pocket and see that I have a green phone?
Well,
That sounds like a personal thing.
okay. So reading their specs a little bit closer, it looks like the biggest requirement for your phone is that it has an NFC scanner.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
if your current phone doesn't
right,
do
yeah.
NFC,
that's probably.
that may be why it failed to launch in the first place.
Yeah. Pardon my ignorance, but I'm not certain that I would miss an NFC if I didn't have it.
Well, you could go bing, transfer file, bing.
Yeah, NFC is near field communication.
Okay, because all my transfer between my meters and my hearing aids and all of those,
It's all Bluetooth.
It's all Bluetooth and all functions.
So I don't know what the actual specs for your phone is, but my guess is it probably doesn't do NFC, and that's why the app failed.
Well,
in NFC, they use it for banking now. They use it for all kinds of stuff. I've got it turned off on my phone because it's. But yeah, if I needed,
you have it.
I have it.
Really, the two main apps that I use are for my phone to talk to my hearing aids, so that I can use them as microphones for doing recording of conversations. Ohio's a one-party state, and
That's kind of neat, actually.
And I can also listen to music
into
the hearing aid. These are essentially $4,000 earbuds.
Wow.
It's pretty good quality.
Oh, yeah, I'd get some good pays for those things.
Well, it looks to me like, whatever phone you decide, you probably want at least Android 12, because Android 12 and 13 are the current thing, and you just want to make sure it's got NFC.
Okay. Julie and I being, if I may digress for a moment and stop me if you wish to. My wife and I went to a memorial service at her old church several years ago. And they said, in remembering this woman, Lucy was a very giving person. She was giving in life. Anybody needed anything, she'd take clothes off and give it to them. She was even giving in death. She donated her body to science. So we're driving home, and my wife says, Mike was cheap in life, and he's cheap in death. He donated his body to science so there wouldn't be any funeral expenses. She does her best Vanna White and says, even this urn was a trash find. And I said, perfect. So
she's got your number down, doesn't it?
Oh, she does. And sometimes it's not comfortable, but she's always right. So we have our two phones for $28 a month through Spectrum. And so
I'm sure Spectrum would be happy to upgrade your phone to something too.
And as I said earlier, because I don't have a clear feeling as to what phones will work, the selection that I can upgrade to through Spectrum
is limited.
I attempted to do it in a very gross way and pick the most expensive phone in Spectrum, and then it went backwards and said, will the Libby 2 read this? And I couldn't find the information.
Yeah, but I mean, they have a list, but the list of phones they have, my guess is every one of them supports an NFC chip. My phone's not on here.
NFC when you hold your phone next to it. It uses NFC.
Okay, that's a communication mode.
Yeah,
that's terrific information. I appreciate that.
So my phone's not on the list, but my guess is my phone would work. Yeah, you're missing the food.
Where are the cupcakes? And I have to ask,
where is Vicente?
Oh my God.
I think maybe if you get the device or you find somebody that's already got the device and you go to like a T-Mobile store or somewhere that's got a selection of phones and you just start going, okay, bing, okay, it I can read it.
The instructions that I got, and first of all, let me apologize for consuming all of our time here. I didn't want to monopolize it, but I enjoy your input and your comments. In order to communicate with the device, you must have the app on your telephone.
You have to have the app, yeah. I think I won't swear to it because everything's a little different, but I think because it uses NFC and the phone uses NFC, even if the phone doesn't know what to do with it, it'll still, when you bring it close to it, it should still bing at you. Still should at least go.
Well, it will allow me to download the app.
Yeah.
It just won't execute.
Well, like I bet it's because your phone doesn't have that in it. So
without question, you're right.
I don't think it's because of Android 8.1. I think it's
more the base unit.
I think it's because you don't have what it actually wants.
And the Motorola's, the low end Motorola's don't. I don't think mine does.
No, I have seen a lot of complaint. The new stylus, apparently the 2023 stylus doesn't have NFC, but the 2022 did. Go figure that one out. I mean, you know, that at the time that was made, that was a $500 phone though, versus a $300 phone that may or may not happen. But a lot of people say it, the current, even the low end LGs have NFC, so you might get lucky.
Spectrum doesn't even support any of the LGs now.
No, they want the high end stuff. Yeah. They want you to spend money at Spectrum. I bought that directly from Motorola. On the website it said, it works with every carrier. Pretty much, you just need to swap the SIM card around.
I did a little shopping online, looking at what Best Buy had and some other places. And it was not clear to me what I would have been buying.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not. Even when you know what you're looking at and you're going, these numbers don't make any sense to me. And I was the same way, because when I was looking at this one, I was like, okay, those are some things that I haven't heard of before. That's interesting. Okay, it does say NFC in there. Okay, that's good. I don't want to know what that is. I don't know what that is.
What do those initials stand for?
Near field communication.
Okay.
And
you'd said that earlier, it just never connected in my brain.
we have played around with that a little bit with Arduinos, those little tags that that I had.
Yeah.
And there's a card reader that will read those cards. Might be able to build an app to do it with an Arduino. I doubt it.
Yeah, carry it around in a suitcase.
But from what I've read, that looks like what the big requirement. And it looks to me like everybody else who makes stuff like that, they know that certain phones will work because they can look at the specs of the phone and say, okay, this has what we need. Like I said, mine's not listed, but I bet because it's got the NFC, it would work.
Would be well, if I had the phone in my hand, it cost me nothing to try to download an app.
Yeah.
But when I don't have the phone in hand, then I'm having to take a step on faith. Spend money on this can actually work.
Well, I think either way you need a new phone because you were way out of date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's not as old as dirt.
Well, you can tell. See, I only got 2 cameras. He's got 3, maybe 4. That's a sign. How many cameras you got? If you only got one on one side, one on the other, you're way out.
I saw a phone that had like 6 cameras on the back. I was like,
yeah,
that's insane. Why do you need that many cameras? I question why I need 3 cameras.
Other than you have the long, far, close, and right
There you go.
Get an add-on.
That's an idea. It's not a bad idea.
To be second to SAG.
It's about the same size as your phone, so you could just glue it to the back. And it'll write stuff, so you might be able to use that to change the codes in your reader.
Actually, my phone will write to the cards too.
It's getting weird, man. Weirder.
The that NFC reader that I got from M5 Stack that was only like $6. That would write to the cards.
Which frequency?
13 point whatever that was.
Okay. Well, this one does 13.56 and 125K.
Yeah.
I've been seriously considering getting a NFC tag embedded in my skin.
Look good right through the middle of forehead.
Yeah. A little blue.
I was going to say, where do they embed it is what I want to know.
Well, they can put it pretty much wherever you want. I'd get one in the back, the loose skin in the back of my hand.
Oh. How thick are they anyway? How physically big are we talking about?
Hold on a second.
Are they like a penny kind of a thing?
Oh, smaller. So this is dangerous things.com, and these are some of the, well, this next one, you can program 4 different IDs in it. It does 133 and, or sorry, 13 megahertz and 125 kilohertz. Kind of cool. It's not inexpensive, but it's glass, it's hermetically sealed, and it's just over 1/16 of an inch in diameter. It's 1.5 millimeters and 8 millimeters long.
No battery or anything. You pass the field, it induces a real quick thing, and it sends out a little bit of data. And they used to
sorry, 2 by 14.
They don't have the readers here anymore.
2 inches by 14 inches.
They
Yeah,
used to
that
use
was
it.
Millimeters.
Yeah.
A little small.
So that's what we're talking about now.
So how long do these things last before you have to replace?
Well, these shouldn't ever really wear out. You can rewrite the memory in them a couple of 100 times, maybe 1,000. But if you're just reading, it shouldn't wear out. They don't have power. It doesn't have a battery in it. It gets energized by a coil for a transformer effect. And it just basically shorts out that coil in Morse code or something similar.
Some pulse code, basically.
Right.
Got to think about that Morse code thing.
Now, Steve, you looked at the little USB medical bracelet I had brought in several years ago. Do you, I'm asking, and I don't mean to be personal, do you store your medical information on that?
I wouldn't. It doesn't have that much space, and I'm getting to the point where I have a lot of medical records, but I could have a URL that points to a share that has medical records. I've considered something like that. This isn't for other folks. This is for me. I like getting through doors.
Yeah.
You know, like the hotel rooms, like you talking about getting through that's NFC. You walk up and you hit. So they program your room number and how long you're going to stay and everything.
In every place I've worked for years and forgotten my tag. I want a tag I can't forget. And they sell the programmers here. They're set up so that they're reasonably easy to use. You can scan a tag and say duplicate it, and then scan the back of your hand, and it makes your hand match the tag that you got. It doesn't do things like roaming codes or whatever they're called, where it actually does some math. It just spits out a number or text or something, I don't know.
Or both.
Yes.
Yeah. Depends on the tag. Some tags can store a bit, and some tags can only store a little.
I think these can store up to 8K.
8K, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, you got to hold still for a while to read out that much data. If it's just a 20-digit number, it's a lot simpler.
And supposedly, I have found though that the tags are not all random, because I've got a couple of tags at home that read the same, but supposedly all the tags are random. Of course,
I would have thought you would have gotten consecutive tags, but same tags is curious.
I've got 2 tags that read the same number, reads everything reads, but the checksum is different. And I think there's 1 digit somewhere that's different inside that makes the checksum different. And I've got another tag that reads identical. It reads identical to the other tag. I don't think I cloned a tag, because I could have, but I don't think I did. But those are also the cheapest tags I could find on eBay, like 40 of them for like $12 or something back when they were actually affordable. And I was expecting them, I wasn't expecting them to be 100% great because, you know, Chinese tags. But one of those robots that I had, I was using it, using NFC for navigation. And when I tried to revise that, I realized that the two of the tags were reading exactly the same. And one of the tags was the checksum, the tag was reading almost the same, and the checksum was just off, just a hair off. And I was like, ah.
Well, checksums are either dead on or dead off. There's no middle ground.
Now, Art, are you saying the checksums are not analog?
Yeah, right. They're not analog. So, Mike, one of the questions I have is with these CGMs, every 2 weeks you're throwing out the CGM and getting a new one, right?
Based on what I'm reading, that seems to be that there's a portion that is constant, and then there's a portion that is changed every 2 weeks. The information I described earlier as being a third grader's guide to this device doesn't really talk about that. It's a picture book showing how you take the sticky part off and put the sticky part on, and that's about how technical it gets. So I don't have it yet. It has been ordered for me, but I have not received it in my hand. The one that I wore a couple of years ago, I wasn't expected to do anything other than be the warm body it was attached to. So it was put on me, I wore it, and it was taken off. And so I learned nothing about it during the 2 weeks I was wearing it.
I guess the question I'm asking is the part that you change out every 2 weeks, and most of them that I've looked at are 10 days to 2 weeks per unit. The part that you change out is not the electronic part, it's just the probe part, I assume.
I don't know.
Okay.
Nothing I have read or looked at relates to that question. When I get it, I'll be happy to tell you.
Okay. Well, I just got mine. Kaiser, up until like a month ago, would give me a script for it, but they wouldn't pay for it. So it was like 60 or 80 or even $100 every 2 weeks to replace this thing. So I thought, well, you know, I can afford it, but that really grates me. So the last time I was at my PCP, which is, I don't know, a month ago, he said, well, good news. Now, Kaiser, if you are on insulin, it covers the CGM, period. That's all you need to do to qualify. Before that, you had to be a type 1 and so forth and so on. But now Kaiser pays for the whole 9 yards. And so I said, well, sign me up. So he signed me up. And a few days before we got on the plane to come out here, I got this box containing all the instructions and so forth and so on. And I think 7 little packages, each of which contained a CGM. Because it was right before we flew, I decided not to get in the midst of that while I was traveling. And then we got out here and we've been busy, and I haven't basically read the book and so forth and so on. But I guess what I was wondering is, do you throw out the electronic part every 2 weeks, or is that somehow recyclable? So, at any rate, I will report back next week. I will take it as an assignment to get this thing going and see how it works.
Well, this is kind of related, but not exactly. Have you folks seen the currently circulating video on YouTube of the gentleman who has had a heart replacement? And he gets into an argument with his neighbor, and the police say, well, you're threatening your neighbor, and so you're going to jail. And he keeps telling them, I need my anti-rejection medication 3 times a day. I have a window of a half an hour before the time and a half an hour after. And they say, oh, yeah, well, tell the jailers that. And he doesn't get his medication. He doesn't get his anti-rejection drugs. And he's dead 2 days later.
What kind of an implant did he have?
A heart
Replacement.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
That'll keep half a dozen lawyers busy for at least a couple of years. I mean, the legal fees alone will be amazing.
Well, he was calmer about it in the back of the police car than I would be. He's saying, well, I've got to have this. If I don't get it, I'll have a rejection. So I got to do that 3 times a day. And I'm thinking I'd be beating my head, fists, and everything else to get someone's attention. But it's worth taking a look at if you haven't seen it, just for the ho-hum indifference.
Well, as I say, the lawsuits are going to go on forever for that one.
Yeah.
In the medical world, in the police world, if you don't speak up, you don't get. It's like the medical world. You got to have to be the squeaky wheel sometimes. And I have trouble doing that. And I have trouble doing that, being the troublemaker.
Really?
Yeah.
YouTube drives me nuts right now.
I do well in here, but
I watched one flat earth video. And I am inundated with 1,000 flat earth videos now. So never ever watch a flat earth video. The YouTube algorithm will think that you want to watch that.
Well, it's like watching cat videos.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One video.
But did they make a good series of points on why the earth is flat?
No. No, it was ridiculous nonsense that was more of a ranting of, this guy was just yelling and screaming because everybody thinks the earth is round.
I liked it where the guy says, flat earthers around the world are thinking this.
Very good.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. But I watched one YouTube Please take that off of my list. I don't want to watch it.
Not to be morbid, but your tombstone's being described.
Well, I guess the thing is if you don't want the algorithm to follow you, don't feed the algorithm.
Biden tripped and fell during the Air Force graduation ceremony after he gave out the last diploma, sounds like.
Yep.
Well, you're Navy, weren't you? You know, you're Air Force? Oh.
Ground down.
Oh. Armage. Oh.
I was in the infantry as a mortar crew.
Well, it was a logical thing, yeah.
With yeah. That's typical military, right? You know all this stuff and they're gonna make you go and cook or something. I know stuff. No, you don't. Go cook.
Well, I know it was a long time ago, but I'm still angry with the cadre that I had at Fort Polk, Louisiana, because the people I was down there with, they didn't care whether they learned how to assemble a weapon, read a map, aim a mortar. They didn't care whether they had the slightest skill to survive. They just pushed them through. I am of the opinion that many of those people went to their death because they didn't know what they were doing. And they didn't have to be that way. They just didn't care.
Had no repercussions. A lot of times in the military and the government, there's no repercussions.
Yeah.
Like the people who did the pack the parachutes.
Yeah.
Then they started letting them jump in them. They were more motivated.
It does have motivation.
Yeah.
The people down there at Fort Polk were thieves. They took rations from the mess hall. We never saw any decent food the entire 11 weeks I was down there. I had KP, and we discovered that they had 5 gallons of chocolate milk. We hadn't seen any chocolate milk the entire time we were down there. So 2 other guys and I that were on KP stole that 5 gallons of chocolate milk. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, 3 people cannot drink 5 gallons of chocolate.
Try as they may.
Try as we may. Can't do it.
Leroy, I got a toy you'll appreciate.
Okay.
It'll go nicely in your car. The Dell 7212 rugged laptop.
Oh.
So
Okay.
touch screen. It's got 2 separate batteries. They're individually replaceable, and it'll run on either one, so you can swap out batteries while it's going. How do we get this in focus? Stuff connects to it with pogo pins.
Cool.
It's got a stand you can carry it by or use it to prop it up. It's pretty stiff. Has a fingerprint reader. Has an NFC reader. Has a stylus, so you can do stylus-y stuff. I'll probably never use that though. All the little controls for it are behind moisture resistant covers. It's not waterproof, I'm sure of that, but it's kind of interesting. On the bottom, It's got
More
more
pogo.
pogo pins, and the two over here by themselves are for a radio. And it's got a magnetic keyboard.
Nice.
It's got magnets all around it. Once it's closed, it's solid. You can use it as a weapon.
Is this a work laptop?
Huh? Oh, no, no, no. I
No.
got this off of eBay or
That's
Craigslist.
$60.
It was under 200,
Oh, that's not
and
bad.
it's $2,500 new.
Does it run
So-
Windows?
I don't know. Why would I know such a thing? You can program the keys to do specific stuff.
Right.
I think only 3 of the keys are actually programmable, but I've got one of them to turn on and toggle the on-screen keyboard, so I can use it without the physical keyboard. It's got front and back cameras.
Nice.
I saw it on Craigslist.
Lots
I'm
of
like,
memory, lots of power. Yeah.
no, actually, it's an i3, so it's a pretty low end processor. Actually, it's got a decent amount of RAM, 16 gigs, and I have no idea how big the drive on it is. It's at least a 128. It might be a 256, but that's more than enough for anything I need it for.
Is that solid state or?
Yes. Yeah, no moving parts. Though it does have a fan, which kind of surprises me.
So you could go out there and use it as a shield for people throwing rocks at you.
Yeah. Oh, it also has GPS.
What's the rugged rating on it?
I don't know.
Can you run it over with a tank?
It feels like it.
What's the native OS?
It ships with Windows 10.
It looked like it was Windows from that little sticker on the back.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Let me remove that.
Get that out.
Windows. What's this?
He's got a Windows scraper in his toolkit. Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, now Steve, somebody's going to sneak up on you and reprogram your chips to show that you're a Windows operator.
That's not likely to happen.
Every time you open the door, it says Windows.
Steve Jones, Windows.
Yeah.
Steve Jones, Windows. So
It's lighter than I would have expected. It's about 4 pounds.
what model number is that?
Dell Latitude 7212 Rugged Extreme.
What's the market target for that?
Cops.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Wow. Yeah, those are expensive laptops.
So does it come with some kind of a docking station, or can you get a docking station for it?
You can get a huge number of add-ons for this thing. You can get a docking station. Oh, yeah. All of the accessories for this thing screw on, and they've got tool-free screws. They've got little spinny bits and crap. Hold on. Yeah, come on, focus. It's not going to focus. Anyway, you don't need tools. It's got a physical docking station that goes on these pogo pins and uses 4, or no, I guess just 2 things. God, doing this in a mirror is weird. It clips on. It's got a serial port network, a couple of USBs, and it's got all of that and serial, which kind of surprised me in here.
Well, That's because some of the devices the cops hook up are actual still serial.
It can also provide power on the provide power on that USB jack. This odd one down here with the holes on either side, that's a serial connector, and this one is USB-C. Oh, and it's got a TF card slot too. I took it home, I installed Linux Mint on it, and then I forgot the password. So I can't even boot the thing right now. Actually,
So somebody probably stole this out of a cop car, right?
I don't think so. It is beautifully clean. The fellow I bought it from said that the original owner was a doctor. He had bought it for taking back and forth from his practice and never gotten a chance to use it. And it looks it. It is just immaculate. So I don't know. Maybe it's stolen. Maybe it's not. I saved the emails. I saved screenshots of the listing. We'll find out in a couple of months, I guess.
Did Dell take over Panasonic, the tough books?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, because it sure looks like one of the newer Panasonics.
All the Panasonics have little moving latches on their doors, and this doesn't. And it's not gasketed, they're rubber. If you open up the case inside, all of the things connected to the outside world, they're gasketed and they're waterproofed internally. So the theory is this thing is very water resistant. I'm really curious what happens if you get water in the fan. Is it then liquid cooling?
Short-term liquid cooling.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So how much did you get for that?
$190.
Now, Steve, I have to think that there are going to be congressional hearings about that computer.
Yeah, and that chocolate milk too.
No, I'm thinking someone's going to allege that Hunter Biden had this computer and now Steve does. We're waiting for that happen.
Well, it has been thoroughly wiped. Actually, I never even booted Windows on it. He said he had done a fresh install. I'm like, yeah, why? But okay. I went into BIOS to see what it said that it had, and that was it. Now, I will give this. I haven't figured out how to get the cameras to work yet. I'm working on that, but the wireless works, the touch screen works, the stylus works, the NFC reader works. So I don't know what I could do with that, honestly. Oh, and the keyboard lights up. You can set what color you want the keyboard to be.
Yeah.
I have it in all green now.
That is cool.
What does Ray have up there?
NFC cards.
Ah,
Okay.
Pick a card, any card.
That's all the hotel rooms he's stayed at over the 1,000 years that he's been doing stuff.
you're not supposed to keep those cards.
But they make great spacers for woodworking.
And great souvenirs just because.
Oh, and the screen on this thing is 19.2 by 1080.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but it's 12 inches, so it's pretty tiny.
Does the screen rotate,
Yes.
the aspect ratio, and the
Mhm.
touchscreen part of it, does it actually work right when it rotates
I
in Linux?
haven't played with it that much.
Okay. So I actually think I know how to fix it if it doesn't. I can't tell you how. I'd have
Okay.
to look. I'd have to look at my notes on how I did it. But there's a touchscreen driver, so the screen rotates, and the touchscreen driver is a separate deal, and you have to tell it to rotate.
Okay.
There's two different things.
I don't think I need a machine that robust.
I'd love a rugged thing for the car, but I mean, I've got it, the Cruiser still has the mount in it. It just, I need the rest, the upper part of the mount, but it still has the laptop mount in it. So
I'm thinking the last time I took a laptop in the van with me was in 2001 when I was using it for GPS.
Yeah.
And at that time it was advanced technology.
So you said it's got a radio interface on it, so the cops could interface it with their Motorola radios.
No. It just has jacks for the internal antennas.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can hook it up to like the car top antenna, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, so you could get whatever the mobile link, whatever they call that, Moby link that the cops use for their internet that nobody else is allowed to have.
Right.
Massive power outage in Annapolis.
The ones I've seen, of course, they're Panasonic models. They got the GPS and everything, and they have a link, and you could interface it with the radio, and they can send telemetry back and forth between them. So I bet one of the options for that is probably a radio link that you can mount onto the back of it. So you could actually send and receive telemetry.
Could be.
That seems like something the cops would want. So they know where everybody is. That's cool. That's a good find. That's a good find for a couple $100.
I'll bet you the cops are paying a hell of a lot more than that for that.
When I Googled it on the phone, $1,500 to $2,800
Yeah.
was the price from Dell, depending upon your options that you want. So,
right.
$200. Of course, those were the current model. They were i5s and i7s, but quite a bit more than $200.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think the 7212 is still in production. Though the batteries are plentiful. I've already ordered a spare pair, but it seems to get, it only has one battery currently. But it seems to get pretty good time on it, a couple hours. So I figure on 2 batteries, I should get at least 6 hours.
Now they recharge how?
It has a more or less standard Dell charger. It's kind of odd. It looks just like their standard charger, but the little jack with a pin in the middle of it is half the diameter of standard Dell. It'll also charge through the pogo pins if it's got one of the docking station things. And on their webpage, they sell a 12-volt charger for it that's under $100 that I'm probably going to pick up maybe in a paycheck or two.
Steve, the charger that you held up the plug on, what is the voltage on that?
I believe it's the normal Dell 19.1, but hold on, good Lord.
It's tiny.
Yeah, 19.5 volts at 3.34 amps. 19.5. That's curious because everything else Dell that I'm aware of is 19.1.
So this is how you test the ruggedness. You go out into the factory floor and you run it over with a fork truck a couple of times.
Those are pretty solid.
We when I had the computer shop, we bought some off-brand rugged laptops, a whole pallet of them. Like there were probably 150 of these things. Got some of them working, got most of them working. The ones we couldn't get working, we went up like on a 5-story building and tossed them over the side to see what would happen to them. And
David Letterman.
My partner, he had a fork truck. We ran them over a bunch of times just to see. These things were tough. We could not break them. If they weren't already broken, we would never have known that they had been run over or anything. I mean, they were just insane. And when you opened them up, this was back in the day when physical spinning hard drives was still a thing. When you opened them up, the hard drives were encased in like a silicone gel. All around.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
So they're pretty well shock mounted, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, you would have to do something, maybe drop it from an airplane 10,000 feet
Do you
up.
remember opening up the compact luggable?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever opened a.
They had aluminum frame and superstructures and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Was riveted together. It looked like it could withstand being over. Well, other than the size of the sewing machine, that you couldn't run over it, I think, just because it was too big. But they were, the one I had was massively constructed.
That's probably why it was so heavy.
They were luggable.
I had an old tough book. I think it was a C30. I'm not sure. And on it had a spinning drive. It was mounted between 2 phosphor bronze springs. Mm-hmm. And so it could wiggle around a little bit in there, and those carried heat off of it really well. They were pretty thin, but the width of the drive, and there was one above and one below.
Yeah.
Had not heat sink compound, but heat sink film, I guess you call it, between the electronics side and that bronze spring.
These things that I had, we didn't get CD-ROMs for them. They would not boot off a USB. They wouldn't do all this stuff. So we had to take the hard drives out and clone each one of them to get them back up. That was a long process. But we had a couple of them that just would not power on. We never really understood why, but they just wouldn't. So,
who was the manufacturer?
I don't know. It was a generic gray rugged laptop that I don't even know where they came from. I mean, you know, we bought them from an auction, and there were 150 of them on this pallet. think we paid $40 for the pallet or something.
Well,
Nice.
we're wrong at that one.
Well, that's what we said. At that price, we'll just take them out back and shoot them. I mean,
Cheaper than Target.
take them up to the gun range and just blast them. See what happens to them. We did all kinds of stuff to them. Man. We put them through their paces, and as far as we could tell, they were very, very solid laptops. They were not anything special. They were like Pentium 1s. I mean, they were, you know, if they had 8 megs of RAM or something, I mean, it was just silly. I think they were running Windows 3.1. I think that's what we finally was able to get to run on them.
Wow.
So I Googled it.
Talking about my telephone.
Exactly. We put them on eBay. We sold them for like $20 a piece, and people were grabbing them up. So
I might have bought one of those from you.
you might
So I
have.
Googled best rugged laptops for 2023, and it's got a list with prices. Panasonic Toughbook 40 is $48.99. So
But Dell's they're making more affordable.
yeah. Though honestly, the Dell isn't even in their list. There are 2 different GetHack, never heard of them, GETAC, $3,000, and a cheapie at only 2039. And there's an Acer Enduro Urban N3 at the bottom of the list at $800. And then a couple of other Panasonics and a DuraBook, whatever that is.
And Panasonic was always they always set the benchmark for tough work, for rugged laptops.
So this DuraBook is pretty generic looking, but it seems to be almost identical to this thing I've got. Yeah. Next time we have an in-person, I'll try to make it and bring it in. I had to finish up some stuff here at work today.
Well, I suggest that we will try to destroy your rugged laptop by throwing these cupcakes at it when you do come in.
I don't think cupcakes will hurt it much.
We'll go up on the roof and toss it off.
Well, I'm thinking these cupcakes will be pretty damn hard.
Pretty hard by then.
Yeah.
So let's see what
Put them in your
Mr.
folder.
Vicente has been up to.
Really?
We haven't heard from Vicente lately.
These are too small.
Oh,
Are you up to anything good, Mr. Vicente?
Nothing,
Nothing?
nothing to show.
No. That's odd because you always have something. Okay. Well, what about Mr. Ray?
you got any deer pictures? Vicente, no deer pictures, Vicente?
No, I have the 20 giga of pictures of the party, graduation party, because the camera was in a place where all the tables were settled. So I have a full day of people moving around the camera. I just clean the memory and put the camera in another place far from the house now. Maybe next week we can check for some animal or something. But this time was only people.
Oh,
People eating.
What about Mr. Ray? Anything going on?
It's always laser stuff. And then it's not laser stuff and all kinds of other stupid stuff. So the buildings are just more and more work. I rebuilt this little, it's not like this small, but it's a lot bigger. It's called a full spectrum laser Muse version. And I put the link in the meeting chat for if you guys want to take a look at it. It's actually just where that's for the forum. But it was a neat little rebuild, very tight. Barely any space for the components and wiring. But it's not something that we normally rebuild, these little laser machines, because by the time things start to fail in them, they're just not worth the money of rebuilding. This one happens to be a little bit more of a high-end desktop. And the original price on it was somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000. So the problem was that when all these laser machines were sold, there was some question about, who stole the laser machines and then sold them, or if they sold them and then stole the money from the company or whatever. So we started rebuilding these laser machines for people. And so this is just a kind of a test version. And we've done a schematic. We did a 3D printed headrest, stuff like that. But did you pull up the link there yet?
Yep.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
And share my screen.
You should be able to. There you go.
So, on the forum for full spectrum laser machines, I told them, just start off with, hey, this is all the things I've been doing. This person, had asked me to do this, and here's the parts and stuff that we had added into it. We the hardest part of it was interfacing the opto interrupter limit switches. The rest of it was all standardized for me, but these opto interrupter limit switches were a bit of a pain. This photo, I'm sure you guys can see, was about midstream of the rebuild. You can see how down on the middle right of the corner on the right side of the laser machine, there is a flash drive interface, Ethernet, and then there's a USB interface to the computer. There's an extra cable that goes to the camera. So we did this. Couple of praises. And then I went back and I'm like, hey, I want to finish it up. We made it rotary compatible. Did a bunch of testing, comparative testing between other rotary devices. And it's like, okay, I got some things here. I'll add some more photos later, add a schematic later. I added the STL, which is this little headrest. And it's nice to have the headrest there because when you're looking at the laser machine, you shouldn't be hovering directly over top of the laser. You want to stand back a foot and be able to look at it at an angle.
What's the dimension there, Ray?
The work on the inside is about 12 by 18 is the workspace. When you look at the board that says Rabbit, there's a honeycomb below it, and the workspace is 12 by 18. The full size of the laser, 24 by 30, something like that. It's a glass top. You might notice from the previous picture to this picture, it's got these glowing red buttons. So it's just to control the interior lighting. So the lower red dot, it says red dot there, and that's to turn on the little red dot pointer. And then there's a little silver button down here in the bottom right. That's for the rotary device. And it come together pretty nice.
About how much does it weigh?
I can pick up the whole thing and carry it by myself. So 40, 45 pounds. Now you can see behind it, there is an air exhaust, there's a chiller system behind it, and there's a diaphragm air compressor behind it. So this is a small laser that's, you know, if you wanted to put it on your bench top or something like that, it's very viable. But you know, you're gonna see a bunch of these come into the market here soon, where somebody has the laser, it had the previous display on it, and for whatever reason the software is defunct or the controller's bad now or something stupid like that. And having this as a rebuild option, nobody's done it before, and I'm completely surprised. Why not? Just so surprised.
How many watts did you say that was, or did you?
So the company claims it's 40 watts.
Damn.
But it's not. It's more like 25 watts.
It's still pretty impressive.
Well, for the money that they spent, that's not impressive to me.
If that's $7,000, that's
yeah, $7,000 is just too much. I can get a, you know, here we'll do a 60 watt unit that has, let's see, it's a 60/40, so it is 24 inches by 60 inches or 24 by 16 inches of real workspace. And it can be expanded to 60 watts, 40 watts, 60 watts, or 80 watts. And you know, it's all built standard with a pass-through doors and enough depth for a real good rotary. And it's less expensive than $7,000. It's just, but I mean, this is cute if you have to have it on your desktop. But it's never going to be a true 40 or anything higher. The way that it is built now, it's compatible to the industry leading software, which is Lightburn. And I think that we're going to get the opportunity to do more of these rebuilds. I just think I think we're going to have that option. Let me see if I can find a original picture of a FSL Muse laser riser. So you can see how this picture on the right, there is no control of turning the interior lights on and off. It has this, gosh, it's got to be 2.5 by 4.5 inches color display on here. And it is flat with the screen, the top there. It's not built in, you know, like a glass top, but it's flat there, has a little single on-off button. Obviously I chiseled that out and put in a really good toggle switch. And we replaced the head, or the operator panel area. I put on that headrest. The functionality of buttons and the preview space and just the software alone, having Lightburn available, is so much better than what the original software is. But yeah, $5,000 base unit without the riser and the three rotary section. So they're choking right now on the prices and such. There's the riser. But yeah, the the company that makes these is Full Spectrum. They've had a lot of internal employee problems, a lot of internal theft, and the owner of Full Spectrum basically has come forward and says, hey, all these customers that bought our laser machine from our building, you bought it from some guy that stole the money. And in doing so, the entire sale was a giant theft. So he demanded that everybody give the laser machines back, and that it's all stolen property. And now all those customers, 50, 60 something customers, are now guilty of receiving stolen merchandise. Right? Even though they picked it up at the building or Full Spectrum shipped it to them. The owner says, hey, you've got stolen stuff and it's mine and I want it back. And the investigator, the detective is like, no, that's not right. You can either say that the product is stolen or you can say the money is stolen. You cannot say both, because it was espionage. It was employees at Full Spectrum that basically did the whole sale, but when they collected the money, they took the money and put it in their pocket. So yeah, this happened to a bunch of people, and this is quite a fiasco. They've been doing it for 2.5 years, and they just realized, the owner of the company just realized this was happening February of this year.
My inventory is going down, and I don't have any money in the bank.
Yes, exactly. He's like, we're $500,000 short. What's going on?
If his legal theory were to prevail, I'm sure there are some Native American tribes who'd like America back.
Yeah, well,
You want the money for America.
Yeah.
you know, Miami University is going through that issue where they're like, the Miami Indian tribe is like, hey, don't use our picture, you know.
Uh-oh, you froze, Ray.
Because, oh, I'm like, are you kidding me? It's just crazy.
There's got to be a statute of limitations on some of that.
Yeah. There are a couple things that there are no statute of limitations. Murder is one of them. And I'm sure murdering Indians and then taking their land was, you know, how they're going to justify no statute of limitations.
We seem to go off on tangents here.
Anyway, I don't mean to go off on that. The question was, does Ray have anything new? And it's like, yeah, I rebuilt this thing, and it was quite an interesting project. Normally, when I interfaced, different laser machines, I'll run into a little something different. But with this one, the biggest problem was interfacing the opto interrupters, basically opto isolators. And typically you can wire an opto isolator 2 different ways, inverting and non-inverting. And they'll have a full voltage swing from basically 5 volts down to darn near 0. And the problem was that when we were trying to put not inverting or non-inverting, either one, putting it into the laser controller, the Ruida controller, that the Ruida controller had this huge pull-up and a pull-up resistor and such. And so I had to deal with basically unknown voltages, unknown circuitry inside the controller, and that just cannot be removed. So we peaked out the photo emitter to as much amperage that we could put through that little LED diode in there. And then we got a lot of voltage swing and had to deal with it. I mean, everybody knows, when you're doing TTL logic, you're trying to get as close to 0 for off It's close to 5 for on, and the best that I could manage was 1.6 volts for a low and 4.2 volts for a high. And yeah, Vicente is shaking his head like that is not reliable.
No.
And but every time we ran it, even if it was at 2.4 volts and 3.8, that minimal of a voltage swing was enough to get it to register always. So, when I was able to get the 1.6 swing up to 4.2, I'm like, hey, this is more voltage swing, and it's absolutely reliable. In the future, this is a laser machine, and I was concerned that the opto interrupter is going to get dirty with residue, and that's going to interfere with the photo emitter transmitting the light over to the collector, and just not going to work. So, so anytime you guys ever want to come down and do some laser work, laser engraving, you're welcome to. I got a whole shop full of laser machines. We got CO2, and we got some fiber metal engraving stuff. Here's the great news. My metal cutting lasers are in a container and heading to the port. So they're gonna be here within like 40 days.
In the middle of the ocean.
Wait a minute. They're heading to which port? The port in China or the
I don't
port
know.
here?
The port in Shanghai, the port in Pudong, the port I don't know.
It doesn't say what port.
But
it's heading to a port.
If your voltages are varying between 1.6 and 4, you don't care about what port this is going to.
I got 3 metal cutting laser machines on the way to the United States, and I don't have electricity to power those up because they take 3-phase 380, and there is a transformer that's coming with each one of the laser machines, but I don't have 3-phase to deal with the transformer, so I got to get 3-phase installed within the next 40 days. Or something like that.
Can you synthesize it, or do you have to actually get it?
The cost of synthesizing 3-phase electric is expensive. You can either run a 3-phase inverter and then put that to a transformer and get out the 380 volts that you need. But the cost, the what it's doing to the original single phase 230, it's a lot of amperage drain on that 230. And comparing that to just talk to the electric company and say, hey, bring me 3-phase and I'll pay for it. So it's safer, the amperage, all that stuff is easier to do. You just have to remember to turn off the primary side of the transformer whenever you're done using the laser machine, because otherwise you're just sitting there humming along, eating up your electric bill.
I believe it's my niece's husband had a 3-phase for carpentry work, and he ended up getting a motor generator set.
Yeah, you can do stuff like that. Basically, you hook up 2 legs of your motor, spin a giant flywheel, and it'll generate the 3rd leg. So it's interesting to do. Running out of time.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Unfortunately, we always run out of time when Ray's got
something interesting.
Next week is in person.
We're in person next week, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No cupcakes.
You out of town?
No cupcakes next week.
Oh, bummer. Just leave them in that drawer back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please try.
Trying to say
Good night, gentlemen.
See
Good
you guys
night.
later.
Good night.